you know, no pressure. You just play your game, you try your best, and great chance to maybe cause an upset, perhaps, as in the bottom left, already sending out an STV. Our blue Terran player is Maru.
With a true Terran rift there in the top right here in the red. This is Alpha X's Astrea. Max Power Chord Angel. Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, we were saying at the start, I'm like, oh, I hope that respectable defensive Maru is who we're going to see today. Oh, Astrea. So hello, neighbor. What are you doing over there with that barracks? Build it at home. Thank you very much.
I love it. That Astrea is so well prepared, man. He knows that Maru wants to make this his own game. He knows, you know, Maru wants to like mess this up right away. And Astrea's like, I'm gonna check, and Maru gets punished for trying to be greedy, putting it in the natural of his opponent. So Maru has to, well, now Maru has an SCV scout, which is way earlier than it ever needs to be. There's nothing to see at the moment.
Just the 37 mineral SCV scout that's cost him so far, with the denied mining time as well. And he's going for the engineering bay blocker there in the natural. What? Okay, all right, easy, Tiger.
Maru, hello?
Is this just ultimate lack of respect for Maru? I think it might be.
The double engineering bay blocker. I love it.
Maru has already sunk 99 minerals of canceled structures in this game. It's amazing.
I mean, that's something new, right? That's definitely not how...
Yep.
That was not how I was expecting this to start off at all. I mean, nice scout from Astrea, gets the cancelled racks. I mean, Maru is just going to turn this into a fairly regular opening, but I guess on the plus side from Astrea, you do say, hey, you know, now I can play my game. There was one thing that Astrea did in the NA playoffs, and that was he really liked going for early units across the map. Now he does not go for a Zealot, he does just go for an Adept. But of course, this racks at home is later than it would have been usually, so maybe there's some potential there. At the same time, doesn't really seem to be much of the case, as he's just going for the Adept, maybe. I mean, Adept can always show up and do a little bit of something at least.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Astrea Future matches from the NA playoffs, and it felt like when Astrea got a lot of that damage done against Future, it was because Future was trying to cut a corner and not get that bunker in the natural, and Astrea was just punishing him for that. But Maru actually, like, really quickly got that bunker after dropping that low ground command center, so he's at least respecting the follow-up here from Astrea now that the cyber core is done. I very much doubt we're going to see too much damage here, but you're quite right about the barracks being later. That Reaper's dead as well, which is a lovely pick off for Astrea.
Yeah, it had a bit of an issue jumping out of the base, so it took some extra shots, and it goes down. So Maru's going to be playing the early game of this one very blind. I mean, Astrea, he couldn't have really asked for a much better start to this, apart from maybe actually getting the kill on that SCV, which goes out the command center into the bunker, allowing the command center to morph into the orbital.
Yeah. So that's the most important part there for Maru, is that the command center is done. So this Adept is not going to get any actual critical damage done, at most maybe one worker that's left down here. But of course, we do have those two early gateway units, very similar from most of the PVTs we've seen from Astrea recently. You know, two gateway units across the map, just trying to poke at the Terran, grab whatever's exposed, you know, anything that separates from the pack, any of those, you know, those wounded pack animals getting away from there. And in fact, we do have a Hellion going across the map here for Maru. Obviously, this is more of a scout than for damage, but just wants to have a look at what's happening in Astreaville.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame, though, because there's no Reaper, right? So, you know, the combo together is usually enough HP to just run up into the main. Now the Hellion, well, it's actually doing okay. The Stalker's out of position, so the Hellion will get in unless this Sentry is in time to force field. It is not. And so the Hellion will finally get the confirmation that this is Blink. And that's nice, because now he might even be able to get himself a probe or two. He just doesn't reach them. Well, still not over
if
them.
Maru, he might get like 3 or 4 probes here. He gets 3. So getting the scout off, getting 3 probes, and the gateway units did nothing on his side of the map. I mean, that lack of respect at the start there, as I want to call it, from just like double engineering bay block, cancel barracks, all of that stuff getting denied there for Maru, giving Astrea edge at the start, has completely disappeared here. There is no edge for Astrea anymore after that.
Yeah, 3 probes to the Scout and Hellion, definitely not what you want. Maru going into the Raven with the siege tank to follow up this Widow Mine drop, which is going to bring in the natural. Doesn't have to go right away. There's 4 Stalkers here. I think it's better to just sit back and wait. You can just park this medevac in the dead airspace, and then you just wait, and it basically keeps those units there. So it takes away Stalkers, which would otherwise maybe want to go across the map, making use of the Blink. Worth mentioning that Maru with the Raven is going to go 3 CC, so he's not going to have stim or combat shields for quite a long time, but he is going to have a really good economy, so he'll be looking to just play safe and defensively into a bigger macro game. We'll see if Astrea can maybe do something about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's really got this medevac on lockdown at least. The third is up for Astrea, and his economy's not looking too bad. He's managed to replenish those probes right into the robotic play there as charge started after Blink there on the Twilight Council. So a pretty regular follow-up there from the Protoss heading towards his splash damage as Maru starts to get his 3 barracks up, his 3rd command center finishing up. It is all very stock standard TVP at the moment. Nothing really a massive outlier for either player.
Yep. I love what Astrea's doing, though, by the way, because he scouted the 3CC, so he knows there's no bio upgrades for such a long time, and he's like, cool, Double Forge, Templar Archives, Robo Bay. I mean, that's actually more tech than I would have ever thought. He actually did start Templar Archives and cancelled it, and instead went Robo Bay, so even changing his mind. Might have been initially going for, like, oh, yeah, like Storm and lots of gate units, and then he was like, actually, no. Let's go Double Forge and Colossus, because I really can get away with it here as those probes, they get away, but somehow still gets 4 kills. What? And there's sentry!
Oh, Astrea, that's really quite a blunder there. Losing the sentries, 100 gas and 4 probes, those Widow Mines, and an auto turret harassment at the 3rd Nexus as well. Maru, just a little bit of an investment here. 1 medevac with 2 Widow Mines, 1 Raven, finding 6 probes worth of damage and a sentry. That is just really nice for the Terran.
Yeah, and it's dead airspace, right? Eternal Empire is an amazing map for just parking units in weird locations that you can't do anything about unless you have a Stargate. So this, Raven sits here. It's a threat to the main base. It's a threat to the 3rd. And again, has Astrea moved out on the map? No, because he has no opportunity to. Maru just has this pressure, which has kept his units at home. And even now the Widow Mines are cleaned out, the Raven's there. So Astrea still can't justify being on the map. And in that regard, at least it's a good thing that, hey, he did go Double Forge. He did go Robo Bay and into Colossus.
Yeah. If you tech too heavily, though, that's when the low-tech push, where you have that big army supply advantage, and usually a bit of an upgrade timing, can be so terrifying. That's really kind of how this matchup works a little bit. The Protoss usually has a base up, usually has a handful more workers, but the Terran has a lot more army. So it's kind of the onus is on, like, at least at this phase of a regular PvT, for the Protoss to defend. And Colossi are great defensively, but keep in mind that if Maru can keep that Raven alive, that could also be used in the battle to take 1 or 2 Colossus out of contention when that fight actually comes. It doesn't look like Maru is going to hit that timing, although his army is starting to move around.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been too surprised if he looked to hit with that 1-1 right upgrade advantage. Colossus wouldn't be set up with any upgrades just yet. Obviously, we see everything. Maybe hard for Maru to read exactly where he's at. Maybe he just doesn't feel the need to. Maybe he wants to play a longer game in general. He is already waiting for the armory to go into his own 2-2. So that is a little late, so it will be a catch-up on upgrades for Astrea. There's Maru moving out. But at this point, I imagine this is just to look for opportunities. And if he sees something, he will go for it. But just putting pressure on the map. He doesn't really move out here intending to make an attack to win the game or anything.
Yeah, no massive commitment at all. In fact, he left all the tanks at home. It's just bio and a handful of Widow Mines. It's more of a gut poke. It's like a check here from Maru just to make sure that Astrea, is paying attention. And he does seem to have units down at this base, but his army looks a little bit small here. The Colossus very exposed. No shield batteries just yet either. In fact, one of those is a cannon.
Yeah, cannon and a shield battery at least will help out. The Colossus gets brought back up. Good force fields at the end. Save the day, but again, it does come at an expense as Maru will have Zealots. In his third. There's a gap in that little wall, so he'll get on top of the tanks. Well, this is what Maru has to deal with, but he's got a lot of bio coming in, so he loses the tanks. They were there for defense in general, so that's not the end of the world. He will clean the Zealots up, and he's still moving around on the front, and Astrea's doing an okay job of repositioning his army, but he did lose a lot in that initial skirmish on the 4th.
Yeah, he did. I mean, if Astrea held a little bit better here at the 4th place, I'd be a lot more hyped about that charge-out run by. Getting 2 tanks and a little bit of SCV damage is fantastic. Maru loading up some medevacs here and unloading as quickly as possible there to try and engage with those Stalkers. It's just Stalkers and Colossi here. Oh, 3 Colossi. Maru needs to pick up and leave. Oh my god, the Widow Mine's connecting there with the Stalkers. Blink off cooldown, but Astrea maybe not paying attention.
No, he's just going to come into this natural expansion, Maru, and that's what Maru is so good at. He pulled this entire army to the right side, and now he's going to murder 9 probes. He's going to get an assimilator as well, perhaps before he leaves. He switched targets toward the end, and he will not lose the medevac. Of course not, as he's then just dropping to the top side as well, apparently. Maru is everywhere at the moment, Maynard. Absolutely everywhere.
I can't believe he pulled back that red hit point medevac. It's like, this is the weakest one. Okay, you can have it. And it was full of units. But it does still survive somehow. And Maru is just winning everything on every side of the map at once.
Yeah, he is everywhere. Astrea doesn't know where to send the right part of his army where, and Maru's going to lift up here. He could dive toward the main base if he gets away with enough units. He's going to turn back, but he still has the threat of the units on the right. He still has the Raven up to the top, but just look at it. This one Raven is keeping 8 supply of Stalkers out of position. Yeah, this is brutal, man. Gets that Assimilate targeted early. He's going to go for the Templar Archives, then decides to go for Stalkers. It's just, I mean, it's just Maru, right? This is exactly what you expect from him. Don't tell me. Okay. One of those Medivacs needed to die. Just a mental victory at this point from Astrea.
Yeah, it's just to give him it's just to give him something, you know, throw this kid a bone. He's been completely wrecked by this Terran so far, but it feels like when you get this, you know, when you manage to get away with all this tech as a Protoss, normally you're so happy because you got Archons, you've got Storm, you've got, you know, you're ahead in upgrades, that sort of thing. So, you know, later on in the game, you're much more powerful, but he's actually not ahead in anything at the moment. Yeah. that's the problem here for Astrea. Even with all that tech, there aren't any Archons. 2-2 is actually behind the Terrans 2-2, even with the delayed armory rather from Maru. Oh, the Raven comes back. Maru not forgetting about that bad boy, bringing that back in for a bunch of pro damage, and he's ahead 10 workers and then some, with the 4th base floating over. I mean, and ghosts are already part of the mix. I mean, there's no High Templar here, but he has the ability to EMP everything anyway, and all of this splash damage for Astrea really hasn't helped him out with this multi-pronged attack from Maru.
Astrea's army is like, you know, beginner level of like teching of Protoss, and Maru's army is already Ghosts and Vikings. That's the difference, right? The army supplies are similar, but, you know, Astrea just has so many gateway units involved there, and that's just not what you need when there's Ghosts on the map. Vikings fight the Colossus. Good start from Astrea as he gets a couple of Vikings before they fire at all. One big EMP onto the Stalkers. The Zealots running up the ramp. Astrea should not be able to chase up there, and he will not, but he's still warping in units like he wants to make something happen, and perhaps he needs to, because going into a longer game from this position, I just don't think you get there in time.
I think it's not just perhaps, Wardy. I think he almost definitely needs to get something done here with this army. Just sitting it back at home and letting Maru come to him has not been working out for him in this game so far. So he's got to try and get that 4th base. The Planetary under attack as the Raven goes to the automatic harassment. Still so many Vikings alive. The Stalker's trying to pick off whatever they can, getting a little bit close there. The Planetary picks off a Stalker. Astrea needs to be careful with these units. He really can't lose anything. He's not rich. He's not able to afford those extra upgrades either. You know, he has to kind of just keep warping in units with 2-2 upgrades.
Yep, he's not going anywhere. He's just stuck on. I mean, at least you add an Archons in, right? But even Archons at this stage, it's like, well, they get EMP'd and they're not going to be that great. I love this Prism. It's the sort of thing he needs. Something to take Maru's attention elsewhere, right? Pull him to the natural. Maybe then you can set up something else. Astrea realizes he's not going to win the game on these 4 bases, so he goes into the 3rd upgrade on armor. He gets Disruptor started and Gravitic Drive. He makes some investments as he finally gets rid of that Raven. 16 kills on that Raven main node before it goes down. That has been a true hero for Maru throughout this game.
Yeah, it's really been a thorn in the side of Astrea as well. It just has that dead space on this map that you can't actually attack it. You can't pick it off without a flying unit. Disruptors are on the way for Astrea. Obviously, they're a great comeback unit, but they are going to need to pull off miracles for him here. 3-3 has begun for the Protoss. 3-3 following for the Terran. A spreader bio here, plenty of energy on those Ghosts. Astrea needs to pull everything back. Disruptor Nova goes forward. A decent enough Nova there, but still this Viking count. Oh, he goes for the recall. He's going to lose the Colossus.
No, and he only recalled half the army. He messed it up. Now you've got Stalkers and Zealots that get chased down, and that's expensive. Oh, Maru, he's going to cut this army off. He's going to find the War Prism as well. Disruptor shot will be dodged, and Maru's going to keep marching across. By the way, he doesn't even have enhanced shockwaves on his Ghosts, I realize, and he's still been hitting really good EMPs. Just Maru things, I guess, as this army now gets together, recommits in, but the Vikings make short work of it. The Archons have been EMP'd, so they're not lasting very long. The Vikings land to join in the fun, and with Stalkers and Disruptors remaining, you're relying on big Disruptor shots here to basically stop Maru.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that. I can't believe it. He just lifts up a landed Viking to not die to a Disruptor. Absolutely unbelievable bad mana micro there from Maru. He's try-harding so hard. He is just absolutely, in all seriousness, looking amazing right now in this game. I'm trying to find an advantage here. I'm trying to find something to talk about for Astrea, like potentially getting back in this game. I think when I look at it, it's just really good Disruptor Novas, but we haven't seen really incredible Novas any time yet from Astrea. The splits from Maru have been too good. He's been loading things up in the Medivacs as well, as we just saw and I just mentioned. He is styling on him right now.
Yeah, he's just looking good in every part of the game. And, you know, I feel like in a way you got to give credit to Astrea, right? He kept the supplies competitive, and he's kind of given himself options, but none of them have really been the answer he needed them to be. And this is nice, though. He'll get down here and deny the 5th base. And Maru decides to pull back to fight this instead of chasing. Now remember, he knows that recall should be on cooldown, so he knows if he can capture this army, it will be a catch. He will trade out and force this fight, and here we go, the disruptor shot. First one doesn't do much, neither does the second. The third one gets the shot that goes finally.
Yeah, there we go. Getting those 3 ghosts is pretty fantastic. Maru still capitalizing with a faster army thanks to Stim, though. He's going to chase him up this ramp. Very dangerous for Maru. Another Nova here could be catastrophic for the Terran, but the EMPs on the Archons and that last disruptor, the last bit of splash damage for the Protoss, is stuck against the map with no charge to fight back. Down it goes. Maru takes an extremely large army supply lead. He's got a 60 army supply advantage on Astrea. He's just whopped in 9 zealots to try and close that gap. But the army of the Terran is so powerful at the moment. 3-3 done for both sides.
Love the decision-making of Maru, right? He knows there's no recall, so he knows if he backs off, he can actually come and catch this army and capitalize. There's that Max Angel getting a huge connection with the disruptor. And finally, something that goes really well for Astrea here as he turns that around. But even still, just to finish off my point, you know, Maru even knew when the disruptors were all on cooldown that he could chase up that ramp, and that's what allowed him to make the most of that fight. And now he's still on the aggressive despite taking 1 big disruptor hit. He still looks like he has the numbers, and he just says, you know what, I'm done chasing into disruptors. Let's drop your natural.
Yeah, I think this is the good call here from Maru. I mean, just having 1 blobber units against 1 blobber units is almost suicidal against a guy with disruptors. But Maru is going to try and pull Astrea's attention in 2 places at once. It's going to guarantee damage somewhere, somehow. Astrea, great engagement though, picks off the medevacs. He's going to fight back a lot of those ghosts, loses the natural nexus, and unfortunately, robotic facilities and Templar archives are here. One of them goes down. Nova coming forward from Astrea. Maru's not looking, loses the ghost, loses quite a bit of his bio. Oh no, he disrupted Nova in his own Templar archives.
No, Maru trying to drop on top of the disruptors. He gets the pylon, cancels the zealots. He's on the top side of the map. He's ready to defend across the map. He lifts up the game made on. He refuses to die to disruptors.
Stop. He's already dead. The Nexus is taken down on the low ground. Astrea is on 3 bases right now, and they are not a comfortable layout at the moment for Astrea. He's all around the north side of the map. He's lost his natural. He's lost his low ground, rich Vespine base. Astrea is very broke right now on gas, and he needs those gas units to continue to fight back on Maru. He doesn't have the ability to get those gas units, though, now that I mentioned it. He doesn't have his Templar archives. He's down to 1 robotics facility as well. And each disruptor, oh my god, and it's depowered because the pylon died, of course. So Astrea is just... Okay, now Maru, I think, is actually bad mannering him. He's going for the medevac boost upgrade now. And this is actually bad manner, I think.
I mean, he'll lift up his 5th base, but he's going across the map, and he's, you know, this time he's just going to deny bases. He knows that's entire of Astrea's army, so he's saying, cool, I'll kill this base, I'll go for the high ground, deny that base, I'm going to kill your robo that's unpowered, and GG is called. Maru is going to find that first game of the series, Maynard, and he honestly does it with style from start through to finish.
Yeah, I mean, we favored him in the series. The game definitely ended up with the result of Maru winning, which we all expected. But I got to say, there were some good glimmers of hope there from Astrea. You can see that he made a couple errors, you know, in the early game, taking quite a bit of probe damage from the drops there is something that you can maybe tighten up a little bit, defend there with the Blink Stalkers, maybe split your army, split your fences a little bit better, rely a little bit more on static defense, whatever it takes from Astrea to just not take that drop damage. I actually feel like it could have been a lot closer there. We saw that when Astrea got to the point of having the splash damage units, when he had his Archons, had his Colossi count pretty healthy, and the Disruptors especially, when he managed to fire off those Novas, he was actually starting to win some fights. And I feel like if he can get into that phase of the game a little bit comfortably, really solidify that early game, I think that actually this could be a little bit closer than we think.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was very impressed that with all the pressure Maru put on and all the rest of it, I feel like a lot of players would have lost 10 minutes ago. But Astrea merely made it a fight, right? He did get into a position to deny the 5th base a couple of times. If it only wasn't for the position Maru was already in, that would have been more meaningful. I loved everything that Maru did, but there was potential for Astrea, and I definitely think, right, you get into the mid-game more comfortably, and Astrea showed us he could maybe stand toe-to-toe with Maru at least for a little while. So very excited about what maybe comes up from our North American runner-up Astrea. As we do swap over to the NA West server for this second game. Of course, Astrea in America, Maru over in Korea. Swapping some servers to make it fair through the series. And Ice and Chrome is going to be our map name. A nice large map for game number 2.
Definitely a map that Terrans feel less comfortable on in the non-mirror matchups, of course. They have a little bit of a tougher time on it, at least, you know, statistically. But, you know, when there is a particular strategy for that map that could work out for you, like something like even BC openers against Protoss is something that we've seen a little bit in TVP on this map. Something that kind of negates the distance, you know what I mean? Like something that means that the map distance doesn't matter at all because you can just appear on the other side of the map, stuff like that. I actually feel like there are some builds in this map to make things a little bit closer as far as Terran balance is concerned versus Protoss. But I do like the map for Astrea, at least on paper. And I wonder what he's got here. He clearly is prepared for Maru. He's scouted out that early game barracks. That was a wonderful start for him. So I just want to get into this game. I don't even want to talk anymore.
Yeah.
I actually just want this game to start.
You know, you mentioned that early game barracks, though, and I am a little bit afraid that, you know, we go back to the very start of that game, and the first few minutes was pretty much the best first few minutes that Astrea could have asked for based on what happened. And it still turned into Maru being everywhere and all over the place, and multi-pronged aggression working out so well for him. So, yeah, you know, in that regard, I get a little bit worried again, but maybe Astrea can make that early game look like his own once again on Ice and Chrome. Definitely need to get a good start on this nice large map if Astrea wants to win a game in this series. This would be the time to do it, absolutely. Obviously, I mean, down a game, map 2, best of 3, probably is the only chance he gets to do it, but, you know.
Probably and literally, I think. We're going to get into this one. And it is going to be his home base. He's on the American server, and I believe he lives in the West Coast, so this is about as good as ping as he can ask for against Maru. Will it be enough? Let's find out together in the bottom left here. It is the American Protoss from Alpha X, Max Power Angel.
And in the top right-hand side, our blue Terran player. So excited to see him in the season finals. It is Maru.
Oh, that's my favorite riff so far.
Yeah.
I like that one. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Felt that one. You know, there is actually a severe danger of no Protosses in the... Like, if Clem really performs later on today, like later today, there is actually a chance of not many Protosses at all in that top 8. If any.
Yeah. No, I mean, the problem is the Terrans just keep doing so well, man.
These dang Terrans.
They just keep playing so well. I don't know what to say. You know, the results in Group D already are looking very Terran favored. It's Terran Town right now in the season finals. You guys gonna have some TVTs to cast the next couple of days, apparently. If it keeps up like this, of course. Plenty of time for it to all turn around.
Lots of TVTs to cast. Oh, no.
It's been a while.
Oh, it has been a while. You got Nexus and the Cybercore there from Astrea. Is still looking around with that probes to make sure that nothing sinister is coming out of the Terran. That SCV is going from A to B there, but a little bit of an odd path, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going to be a little bit of something from Astrea, isn't it, right? This probe heading up and will place the pylon. We'll see what he does with it because he continues forward for the scout. So wanting to come back there later to do something with that. Interesting, because then he can even scout into the natural. Huh. Very fun.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pylon here from Astrea, and I like the respect from Maru as well. You know, that Reaper is not going straight across the map. It's actually being used for scouting here, and it's going to find that pylon.
Wow.
Yes, it is. So
Scout my proxy, I scout yours. Even though there's nothing really attached to this pylon, that's a little bit of a shame, right? Because if you lose this pylon, it is still an extra pylon you have to build again as Astrea, and those little things early in the game, they do add up to making that little bit of a difference sometimes. Astrea just decides to opt for the Twilight Cancel, so very much so what he went for in the last game. We'll see if he just wants to head just straight into that Blink, which is pretty much the expectation, unless he really switches it up and goes like fast charge to try and go for some very aggressive 2-base or so.
Feels like if you do that, you got to get like a robo or something, right? Like you gotta start getting some way for those zealots to be annoying, because if a Terran builds a bunker and has like a good number of units, or go multiple barracks or something, charge is kind of iffy. But yeah, it's just a regular Blink opening there from Astrea. And we do have Maru sort of hiding that second barracks to the far right here. So this is different. This is different, definitely. It's not your regular 1-1-1 opener. It's not your dad's TVP build. Something a little bit more of a, you know, a bit of a Zoomer build here, a bit of a kid's build here for TVP. I like it.
Something fresh off the research lab for the Terrans.
Right.
You see Tech Lab on the rack. So obviously this gets you into a pretty fast stem. The question is, what can you really do with a fast stim if you don't get a starport up and into medevac, which could go like combat shield and make like a marine tank push? I think this should just be fast stim, getting to +1, and a little bit of a later starport and the medevacs eventually, and then you go into it from there, and it does just give you a good amount of bio early. This is a nice catch from the Cyclone. That should be, I mean, it's dead adept no matter what, because it was shading toward the Terran base. This feels scary, because from Astrea's point of view, he doesn't quite know what's up, and you can absolutely die to something like this if you don't realize how much bio there's going to be.
Yeah, just showing up with a bunch of upgraded Marines at a timing that you'd least expect. Maybe you only have one shield battery or no shield batteries, and you're just warping in a handful of Blink Stalkers to deal with it. They can just get overwhelmed. This is something that could actually turn into a boy pool as well from Maru. You know, you're going to have a lot of bio production. You're going to have +1 and stim very quickly. And if you just want the game to end quickly, you could just go for something like that. We do see a third barracks actually drop from Maru as well, so still no starport. Yeah, this is looking very ground poundy here from Maru.
Yeah, this is the sort of build that's absolutely designed to just come across the map and really punish like a very fast third, like what Astrea has. So Astrea has to be really careful here. He adds on 2 extra gates, so he will go to 4 gateways now after being on 2 gates initially. Robo Bay, 1 Forge. Yeah, so Astrea doing all the typical sort of tech of things, but what I don't like about this is because it's the Robo Bay, you're going to have, what, a Colossus? I'd much prefer to see him go straight to charge and like more gates off 3 gas. I feel like that has a way better chance of holding on against this bio-heavy push. He will at least scout it, so he'll be able to prepare accordingly.
Yeah, this is a very, very nice scout. So it can at least get some static defenses down, some shield batteries, that sort of thing. We didn't get to see any overcharged shield batteries defensively for Astrea really in that last game, because it kind of like the damage was done before he managed to cast that spell or have an army in position. All those drops flying all over the place. And we do see, yeah, I mean, the scan from Maru as well, having a look at that natural gets a gas count. And when you see the gases in the natural, you usually are pretty, you're like, okay, this isn't like one of those large gateway builds like you mentioned, that 3 gas mass gateway, swarmy gateway unit style from the Protoss, which would be powerful against what Maru is going for here. But, you know, this does usually mean that as a Terran, a boy pool is a little bit riskier, because you're like, okay, with those extra gases, they very likely also have a Colossus or something to also just cut through those SCVs by the time they get over there. So this looks like it's just a regular ground push. No SCVs going across the map just yet.
Yeah, still staying on 1 engineering bay, though. Yeah.
Yeah, 3rd CC. Okay.
Yeah, I think that CC makes the most sense overall. As this push comes across, it does time out with a couple of medifacts, but you look at what Astrea has. He has an Immortal, 6 Stalkers, 2 Sentries, and he's in a forward position. This is not where you want to be.
Oh, no!
Misses the force field, and Maru's just going to jump on this army. He was away from the shield battery. He was away from the cannon. Oh, this is really bad, because Maru just goes in. He just takes down the pylon. He doesn't cancel the warp in. Doesn't matter anyway. He's going to get a tank sieged up on top of the 3rd, and he was just Astrea a little bit too far forward, not ready to force field, and that is how Maru